Hello once again, Internet. It's great to be back. The holidays are finally over and I get to record YouTube videos again. Isn't it grand? So, a while back, and I mean Thanksgiving a while back, I recorded a video on G-code. And I made it one of two because I wanted to do two of two as the M-code video. So, I'll be doing that video today. So, let's get started. So the first four commands are probably the easiest. They control the temperature of the 3D printer. I have M104, M109, M140, and M190. You'll notice that they're very similar in their structure. The 104 and the 140s control the heater and the bed. And so I'm going to show you a close-up of the LCD controller. If you don't own one of these, I feel very sorry for you because they're great. They're absolutely wonderful to have around. So the first command I'm going to run is an M104. An M104 by itself, much like the G commands, like G1, will not do anything unless you give it an argument. So if you put M104, and S will be the temperature in degrees Celsius. I'm going to set the temperature to just 40 degrees right now. And you'll see that this is the target temperature, and you can see that the target temperature is currently 0. But the target temperature is 40, now the current temperature displays down here. So if I do an M104 S220, you'll notice that this now changes to 220, and it's trying to heat to that temperature. To turn the extruder off, it's M104 S0. And that'll set the target temperature to 0 degrees Celsius. Same thing for the bed, except it's M140. S is the argument, and you can put in a value. I'm going to put 20 degrees, and that'll try to heat itself up now to 20 degrees. There it is. So now I got 20 degrees over here, and then this is set to 0, but this is currently at 67. So, now, the other two commands. So the M109 and the M190 are formatted just like the M104 and the M140 for the extruder and the bed. So you can guess that the M109 is going to be for the extruder, the M190 is for the bed. The way that this works is it works just like the M104 and the M140, but instead it waits for the command. So if I do an M104 S200, it's going to heat up to 220. But while it's heating, I can still run other commands like a G28. Which means I can still home, I can move, I can auto bed probe, I can do the whole shebang. But if I do this, I raise the Z-axis by 10, I'm going to do an M109 S220. And then I'm going to do a G28. And then I'm going to do a G29. All these commands are waiting in the cache of the 3D printer. And currently it's waiting till it gets to the temperature before it implements the commands. So I just sent all the commands to the printer, but it won't implement any of them because it's waiting for the temperature of the extruder to get to 220. So it's currently at 190 right now, it's still heating up. And this is beneficial, say that if your bed bends a little bit when you get when it heats up, or your extruder has a bit of a filament on the end. If you try to probe with filament, cold filament on the end of it, it's gonna give you the wrong offset. So the M109 and the M190 are mostly beneficial when you need something to heat up before you can do something else. Obviously, you need the temperature to heat up before you can print, but if you have filament at the end of your extruder, you need the nozzle hot to melt through that when you go to probe the bed, so you're not adding that extra layer of filament as the 0 for the extruder. You need to make sure you have accurate values. I usually put an M109 before the auto bed probe so that I have a clean level, so I make sure there's no filament on the extruder before it's leveling the printer. So another useful command for temperature is running the fans on and off before or after a print. So before print starts, if my fans are running, I tell the printer to turn the fans off. And after the print is finished, I make sure to turn the fans on so the extruder can cool down faster. The way you implement this command is M106 and M107. This is an M106. and this is an M107. Another useful command is an M18. So after you implement any codes with G1, like G1, Z10, and G1, X5, Y5. So right now, because I've used every single axis, I can't move any of the individual axes. So to disable motors, it's an M18. This will disable the motors so you can move them around. And if you put an M17 in there, the motors will lock up and re-engage. So now I can't move that unless I make the motor skip. So at any point in time you need to work on something by moving the physical motors, run an M18 and you'll be able to move everything around. I usually don't use an M17 to re-enable the motors, but if you really want to, you can. So this one I can't necessarily show you, but it's called an M25. It pauses any SD card print that's being implemented. So I put this in my startup G-code. After I'm done with the Z probe, I raise the Z-axis and then I run an M25 so that it waits for me to resume the print so I can put the bed topping on there. So an M25 will pause an SD card print. You can run it from the keyboard while you're running a print, but it's got to be printing from the SD card. Now, if you're one that tunes your 3D printer, you're going to want to know how to do a PID tune. That is using the M303 command. It's not something I'm going to implement right now because I currently have an OK PID tune, but what it does is it heats the extruder up and lets it fall and then heats it up again, and then it gives you a P, an I, and a D value. This is your proportional integral derivative. It is how the power is managed inside the printer to pulse the extruder and the bed to give yourself a very steady temperature. You can do this by running an M303, and you can run the command by itself. The default, I believe, is 200 degrees Celsius with 1 cycle. But if you want to change the amount of cycles or the temperature you print at, you can manage those. I recommend turning your fans on before doing the PID tune because a majority of the time you're going to be printing with your fans on, so you're trying to make the scenario as similar to printing as possible. So you want the extruder low to the bed, you want your fans kicking at 100%, and then you run your PID tune. And then by doing that, you'll give the printer a good estimate on how fast the fans will decrease the temperature, and it'll run the PID tune better. The arguments you pass to the PID tune is, of course, your M303. Then if you're running the extruder, you're going to do S, whatever temperature you'd like. I do mine at 220 because I usually use 220, 210. And then C for cycles and the amount of cycles you want. And I always do 10 cycles. So I would run an M303 S220 C10. And then that would give me a PID tune for the extruder. Now if I want to do a PID tune for the bed, you would run an M303 E-1. It's a little different. You're going to put C first and the amount of cycles, and then S for the temperature. And that'll do a PID tune for the bed, similar to the extruder, and it'll give you also a P, an I, and a D value for your bed. Now, if you're changing materials, like if you go from a glass bed to an aluminum bed, your PID values are going to be way different. So make sure if you're changing a lot of things, you're going to do a PID tune. So another useful command is the M565 command. This sets your printer's offset from wherever it's zeroing. The reason why you need to do this is because there is a little bit of a space on your limit switches when they hit the bed. They travel a small distance, and that small distance needs to be compensated for. So if I run an M565 Z -20. So now what I have just done is I have told the printer that when it zeroes, it is 20 millimeters from real zero. So if I do a G28, and I do a G1Z0, it's going to rise 20 millimeters because it thinks that this is 0. The numbers range from 0.6 to 1.1 millimeters, depending on how far your extruder dips down when it hits the bed. So that's the M565 command. So the last command I'll be showing you tonight will be the M600 command. Now this is Robert's favorite. We've been doing a lot of testing with this and we'll show you those in later videos, but for now I'll just show you how to run the command. So all you really have to do is just type M600. Now you necessarily can't do this with just your keyboard because there's no way to resume the command with the keyboard. You need an LCD controller. This is a beta test being done by the Marlin firmware developers. It's a pretty cool program. It raises the Z-axis, it moves the extruder out of the way of the print space, then you can, touch up what you need, of course change the filament, and then as soon as you touch the LCD controller, the print will go back to its exact position and resume. It's like an M25 mixed with a G1 and a few other things. So it's really cool, but you need an LCD controller to do it. If you don't have the LCD controller, it doesn't actually work, so be careful with this one. And we're gonna have a more detailed video later on exactly everything you can do with that M600 command. So stay tuned for that. Much like we mentioned in the first video with G-code, we did not tell you all of the commands. I only told you the ones that I deem most necessary to run a 3D printer. Now there's tons that don't even work with our printers because they're written for different flavors of G-code interpreters. But you can definitely go on the RepRap wiki, I have a link in the description, and you can do all the research you want on all of the G-code, all of the M-code commands, and all of the functions I don't necessarily use, but you may feel inclined to. So I hope this video helps you with all the things you need to know about M-code in the G-code language. If you want to see the G-code video, click here. Hopefully I can get that to work. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, you can click that subscribe button. If you have any questions about this video or suggestions for future videos, make sure you leave your comments down below. I have a few New Year's resolutions this year, and I plan to make one of those a new YouTube channel. Obviously, I'm going to keep this channel. Obviously, I'm going to keep making videos on the channel too, but I'll be making a less professional, this channel really isn't that professional, but I'm going to be making an even more less professional vlog channel about the stuff I do when I'm not 3D printing. So I think that's going to be a fun New Year's resolution. The first video is going to be about all my New Year's resolutions, so I'll put the link here to the new channel and the video on it. But other than that, thanks for watching.